YouTubers, what is up? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic, and welcome into the very first video of a new series that I'm doing called Versus the G.O.A.T. And to be honest, I'm making these videos as much for myself as I am for you. The G.O.A.T, greatest of all time, being this 14 by 4 1920s Ludwig Nickel Over Brass snare drum. This is basically what became the Black Beauty eventually. By the way, in the comments, feel free to let me know, what is the name of this drum? Is it a universal? Is it a student? I don't know what the name of it is, but I do know that it's the G.O.A.T. And what I mean by that is every time I put this on the kit, it sounds fantastic, and it's over 100 years old. And what I want to hear, since this thing records so incredibly well, I want to hear how my other 25 something snare drums that I have around this studio stack up against this. Now, I'm not looking for better or worse. You guys can decide that in the comments if you want, but almost every snare drum I own here is an amazing snare drum. These are all different flavors of ice cream. What I'm looking for is how does it sound different, and what situation would other snares fit better? As amazing as this snare drum is, even though it's the G.O.A.T, is it though? I mean, not for an arena tour, like it's too thin. It doesn't have a ton of volume. There's a moment where you start hitting it really hard, it starts to choke. So it's not perfect for everything, but I have a lot of different flavors of ice cream. So the first one that we're gonna throw into the mix against the G.O.A.T is this, my 14 by 5.5 DW with tube lug snare drum. This is a birch snare drum with quilted maple on the outside. If you guys have been following me for a long time, you know that I used to play an entire kit in this finish. And it's a really cool drum, but it's a very different sound than this. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want us to explore together. The differences, not better or worse, but what are the differences, and where would this snare drum fit better than this snare drum? So I'm gonna tune them exactly the same, and all of the drums that we use for this series will have the Evans HD head on. That has just a tiny little bit of a ring underneath the head to bring down the overtones just a little bit. That way I don't have to put gels on the drums. Also, last thing you should know is I don't have close mics. So everything you're hearing is coming from my 2 overhead mics and my 2 mics in front of the kit. I think that's everything. The sun is getting way too bright back there, so let's jump on the kit and check out these snares. All right, now before we get to my thoughts on these drums, let's discuss the elephant in the room. How, as a very, very, very proud Gretsch artist and someone that has a signature snare with Gretsch, how am I calling a Ludwig drum the greatest of all time? Well, first of all, this drum is over 100 years old, like I mentioned in the intro. And so I see this more as a unicorn. This is just a special object that exists more than I see it belonging to any specific brand. Two, I don't think it's the greatest of all time. I'm just using that so that we have something to call it. But all the drums I have are the greatest of all time, given the circumstance, given the musical situation. Also, I'm calling it the GOAT based off of what I've observed over 142 drum camps here at the studio. Almost every time that a camper takes this off of the wall and plays it, they kind of freak out a little bit. And I think part of that is that it's over 100 years old and it still sounds so great. So let's talk about the sound. To me, that drum really excelled with all the sensitive stuff, the buzz rolls, the ghost notes. There was a snappiness to it that's just incredibly present. And that probably has a little bit to do with the amazing nickel over brass shell, but also the depth of the drum. This drum seemed to really stand out when I hit it hard. So this Birch 14 by 5.5 is gonna cut through the mix a lot better than that drum. This is where we get into the like, well, how could either of them be better? There has to be a situation first before one can be better than the other because they're both at a top level as far as craftsmanship. This drum, especially during the backbeats, just seemed to have a sharper note, a shorter wave file, something that would cut through the mix really well. And the Ludwig seemed to just be a little bit more sensitive. And it just seemed to also kind of top out. When I hit it really hard, it didn't keep going, it just stayed there. So I think the Ludwig is going to excel when the volume's down a little bit and you're playing things that are a little more delicate, things that require more snare response and more sensitivity. This drum is ready to go on tour. This drum is ready for a rock band right now. All right, so let me know in the comments your thoughts, and please, in the comments, if I'm going to keep doing these, let me know what changes you would like. Do you want me to not use a pre-muffled head so you can hear more of the tone? I could use a single ply head like a UV1. You might have also noticed that I didn't do a low tuning, and that's because when you tune most drums low, truly tune them low, not just take these two lugs as loose as you can go and get that flappy sound. But when you just tune them low, they don't generally sound very good, and I honestly wouldn't play them like that. What I would do is tune the drum very low and then put a ton of gaff tape or gels on it. But once you do that, you've completely killed all of the tone of the drum, so they all start to sound kind of the same. But if that's something that you really want, let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next week when I take another snare off the shelf and compare it to the GOAT.